It was a chilling and unthinkable way to die. On December 2nd, 2010, 24-year-old Phoebe Handsjuk was found dead at the bottom of a garbage chute in a luxury apartment building in Melbourne, Australia. Her body lay among broken glass and trash in the building's compactor room. Her foot almost severed, her body battered. The fall alone might have explained it, if only her injuries made any sense. But they didn't. And more than a decade later, her death remains one of Australia's most disturbing and debated cases. Phoebe was described as artistic, vibrant, and fiercely independent. She was also struggling. With a history of anxiety, depression, and substance misuse, she had recently been released from a rehab facility. But she was reportedly trying to turn things around. She had started running again, reconnecting with friends, and was trying to stabilize her life. At the time of her death, she was living with her 40-year-old boyfriend, Anthony Hample, a prominent events promoter with powerful connections. Their relationship was reportedly intense and sometimes volatile. The couple lived together in the Balenciaga apartment building, an upscale high-rise with 24-hour security, surveillance systems, and concierge staff. On the day Phoebe died, Anthony said he left for work around 11 a.m. and exchanged texts with Phoebe throughout the day. But when he returned around 6 p.m., he said the apartment was empty and Phoebe was gone. Unbeknownst to him, by 7 p.m., police were already at the building. A maintenance worker had discovered Phoebe's body in the refuse collection room. Blood streaked the inside of the garbage chute and was found near the entrance to it on the 12th floor, the same floor Phoebe and Anthony lived on. The official story, at first glance, seemed almost impossible. Police suggested Phoebe had voluntarily climbed into the garbage chute and fallen feet first from the 12th floor, a drop of over 30 meters. But she didn't die from the fall alone. Her descent ended in the compactor, where her body was crushed with such force that her foot was nearly amputated. There were immediate red flags. To begin with, the opening of the garbage chute was only 22 centimeters wide, just under 9 inches. It was located in a cabinet on the wall, approximately 1 meter off the floor. The idea of someone voluntarily climbing into such a small, high opening, while in a compromised mental or physical state, stretched plausibility. Then there were the injuries. Multiple forensic experts noted that Phoebe's wounds were inconsistent with a vertical fall. Her blood alcohol level was 0.16, over 3 times the legal driving limit. But strangely, her injuries showed signs of her being alive and conscious after the fall. Evidence at the scene, including a trail of blood and broken glass, suggested she had tried to crawl and stand in the minutes before she died. Phoebe's phone was found inside the apartment. Her shoes were neatly placed nearby. A glass with traces of sleeping pills was found on the kitchen counter. But there was no note, no sign of a struggle, no clear explanation. The CCTV footage added more questions than answers. Despite the building being equipped with multiple cameras, there was no footage of Phoebe in the hallway or entering the refuse room. One camera that might have captured her movements had been mysteriously turned off or malfunctioned. Anthony Hample told police that he and Phoebe had not argued that day. He cooperated with investigators and passed a police interview. His high-powered legal team ensured that any scrutiny of his involvement remained minimal. He claimed he thought Phoebe had gone out to walk the dog, and later, to get a haircut. But Phoebe's family didn't buy the story. From the beginning, her mother and grandfather, a retired police detective, believed there was more to the story. They raised serious concerns about how the case was handled. The crime scene was not sealed for hours, critical evidence was not collected, and police quickly labeled it a suicide or accident without thorough investigation. There was no inquest for nearly 5 years. When the coronial inquest finally began in 2014, it painted a haunting, murky picture. The coroner, Peter White, ultimately ruled Phoebe's death was the result of misadventure, a tragic accident. He concluded that Phoebe had voluntarily entered the garbage chute, possibly while in a disoriented state due to alcohol and sleeping pills, and died as a result of the fall and compactor injuries. There was no inquest for nearly 5 years. When the coronial inquest finally began in 2014, it painted a haunting, murky picture. The coroner, Peter White, ultimately ruled Phoebe's death was the result of misadventure, a tragic accident. He concluded that Phoebe had voluntarily entered the garbage chute, possibly while in a disoriented state due to alcohol and sleeping pills, and died as a result of the fall and compactor injuries. But even this conclusion left a bitter aftertaste. The coroner admitted that he could not explain how she physically managed to climb into the chute. There were no handprints, no clear marks. And most crucially, he found that none of the injuries on her arms, shoulders, or legs showed the typical signs one would expect if someone had hoisted themselves into the narrow opening. The mystery remained intact. Further complicating matters was the garbage chute design itself. Experts showed that the opening was spring-loaded and required force to push open. It was not an easy thing to crawl into, especially not for someone under the influence. A reconstruction demonstrated that even a sober, agile adult would struggle to maneuver into it head first or feet first. The family also questioned the timing. On the afternoon of her death, Phoebe was seen by building staff appearing coherent and calm. She even discussed plans for the evening. Her grandmother called her around 6 p.m., and Phoebe told her she was going to take the dog for a walk and meet her dad the next day. There was nothing to suggest suicidal ideation. In fact, Phoebe had just gotten a new job, reconnected with old friends, and was making plans for her birthday. Why then would she kill herself in such an unthinkable way? One of the most puzzling elements was that despite her body being found at 7 p.m., Anthony Hampel didn't know or report her missing until later that night. He claimed to have been working, yet phone records showed several unexplained gaps in his timeline. Police did not obtain or preserve much of the digital evidence. Then came the rumors and theories. Some pointed to Anthony's powerful family connections in Melbourne's legal and media circles. Was the case swept under the rug? Others speculated that someone else had pushed or placed her into the chute, perhaps after an argument. There was no physical evidence to support this, but then again, there was also a noticeable lack of proper forensic work at the scene. Phoebe's grandfather launched his own investigation and commissioned forensic experts to review the evidence. One pathologist concluded that her injuries were not consistent with a feet-first fall and suggested the body may have been placed in the chute post-mortem. Another expert said she may have been unconscious before entering the chute. The case ignited public debate in Australia. True crime podcasts, news specials, and investigative reporters all took an interest. The story of a young woman dying under such gruesome and unlikely circumstances struck a nerve. Eventually, a book titled Into the Darkness by Robin Bowles brought the case back into the spotlight, urging more scrutiny of how the justice system handled cases involving vulnerable young women. To this day, Phoebe Handsjuk's death remains officially ruled an accident, but for many, the label doesn't fit. The unanswered questions are too many, the evidence too thin, the logic too flawed. Did Phoebe Handsjuk really climb into that garbage chute of her own accord? Or did someone help her, before or after she lost consciousness? Was it a moment of disorientation, a panic, or a cover-up? We may never know. But one thing is certain. Her story deserves more than a footnote. It deserves attention, honesty, and the possibility that justice was never truly served. Some tragedies leave behind scars, others leave questions. Phoebe Handsjuk's case left both. Her family continues to fight for answers, and her story stands as a stark reminder of how easily uncomfortable truths can be buried beneath official narratives. If you found this case as unsettling as we did, subscribe and follow us as we continue to uncover the mysteries that still don't make sense and demand the answers that were never given.